Come on, my children, let's get baptized. Ambulance was directed by Michael Bay and stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, and Eiza González. And it follows the story of two brothers who, after their bank heist goes south, steals an ambulance to make their getaway. What's going on, guys, and welcome to my ambulance film review. Thank you so much, guys, for taking the time and effort to click on this video. I really do appreciate that. This was actually requested by one of my subscribers a few weeks back, or maybe a couple weeks back. And I told him it was already planned. He didn't even have to ask, but I appreciate you asking anyway. If you're watching this, thank you for making that request. But you didn't even have to ask. This was already on my roster. It was planned from the get-go since the first time I watched the trailer. But thanks anyway. It's nice to be appreciated. As I've said before, I've seen the trailer for this plenty of times. This was one of those films that did not creep up on me at all. And of course, as soon as I found out who was directing this bad boy, pun intended, my mind automatically went, oh yes, I'm seeing this for sure. And yes, I've always been a fan of Michael Bay. That should have been implied. Even as far back as Bad Boys, but it wasn't really until his Transformers series is when I really started noticing him. I've always known that he's done films like the Bad Boys movies, The Rock, Armageddon, The Island, but it wasn't really until the Transformers movies is when he got on my radar. And whenever I noticed the type of style of filmmaking he does, which is a certain type, which is basically everywhere on here, it's called Bayhem. Or as what I like to call it, when you watch one of his movies, you get Bayatized. So I knew what I was getting into. I pretty much knew what I was getting into. I knew this would be right up my alley. Because, again, I knew this guy's style. I know Michael Bay's style. I practically grew up in my early 20s watching his style. Maybe sometime before that, because I remember the first time I watched Bad Boys, I was still in high school. Was Ambulance good, though? Did this actually live up to my expectations? Was it everything that I expected it and knew it would be from a Michael Bay film? Let's find out. Let's start off with the positives for Ambulance. First of all, I gotta start with the main two characters. Jake Gyllenhaal, first of all, who plays the head thief, the main villain, I guess you could call him. He showed that amount of craziness. You didn't know when this guy was going to snap. I think he had a case of bipolar or something. If I'm wrong, correct me on that, but I think that's the symptom to where somebody, is calm, cool, and collected one minute and then snaps the next. And that's definitely what Jake Gyllenhaal showed in this. You never knew what to expect from this guy. You just didn't. Yeah, he was like a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. And then you got Yahya Abdul-Mateen's character, who's basically this retired soldier who has this wife who's dying of cancer and he needs the money for her surgery, but everything just goes downhill for him, which is why he turns to his brother. Yahya Abdul-Mateen's character is actually adopted, but he turns to his brother for help. And then that's when shit hits the fan. That's when he gets him into this heist and trying to steal all this money for his family. So he's really doing it out of love. But, Jake Gyllenhaal, he's just doing it to be a douche. But these two guys, they worked really well together. They had their moments to where they were, fighting back with each other and just going head to head. Because Yahya Abdul-Mateen's character was more of like the moral, part of this film. To where he would always be like, you're not going to kill her. Just be cool. Be cool. And, he would say, oh, we're kidnapping people now. Is that what we're doing? So, yeah, he was just the moral part of this. And it's like they were totally opposite in personality, but they still got along. They still worked well together, mainly because they were helping each other out through this crazy situation. But Yahya Abdul has been popping up a lot here lately. We had him in Aquaman and its upcoming sequel, which is coming out in the next year or so, I believe. And he was in The Matrix Resurrections. He was Candyman. This guy's breaking out something fierce. He's a force to be reckoned with. He's like trying to be in just about everything now. But I think he's a pretty cool actor. He played this part in this film so well. Such emotions. He's definitely making a name for himself, that's for sure. And I gotta talk about Eiza González. She was like the paramedic, one of the hostages that the guys had took. And there's this injured cop that was shot earlier on, which is the point of this whole movie, and which is the reason why this movie pretty much exists, because the cops could have stopped them at any time, realistically. But if you did that, you wouldn't have a movie. So they had to pull this reason behind why the cops just kept on stopping and stalling and just contemplating in every move, because these two guys had one of their own in their ambulance and he was shot, and the paramedic, Eiza González, was trying to keep him alive. And as they were still trying to get away throughout this whole movie. It added to everything that was going on, and it added to the wild tenseness of it all. I think she's the whole reason why the film exists. Without her, the film wouldn't make much sense. But yeah, she was great. She was great. I think I may have seen her in other stuff. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but she was pretty good. The action was freaking nuts. Of course, this was what I expected from a Bay film. Shot to shot, explosions, shoot-em-ups, car chases. You can't expect anything else from a Bay film. It's just impossible. I was definitely Bayatized. I felt the righteous mighty of the action scenes and the tenseness, car chases, explosions, shoot-em-ups. And it's funny. The action was so freaking nuts that I was surprised to find out how much this movie was actually made for. It was made for around $40 to $60 million. A usual Michael Bay film would be made for around $150 to $200 million. And that's not how much this movie was made for. It was made for way less, but it looked like it was made for around that much, around $200 million. And it's funny, his last movie, Six Underground, was made for way more than this movie was. I think $150 million. And it was only for streaming. And that's just crazy. Please support this movie. Please support Ambulance. But the action sequences was shot in a way to where you wouldn't think that this movie was made for that much. Most things were just done so practical. I don't think they hardly used any digital in this, and that's probably what made it cheaper. That's probably what made the action sequences look so real. And this movie made for that much, for that low. This is the first Michael Bay film that I've ever seen, other than his first one, which was Bad Boys, which is understandable, that was made for this low. It's going to be shocking to me for a while. That did not slow down the action whatsoever. Going into this, I was kind of worried it would. A lesson for all of you. The budget shouldn't outweigh how good a movie is. The tone and pacing was done really well. I could tell that Michael Bay was trying to go back to his roots and how he did Bad Boys, Armageddon, The Rock. Most of his 90s style action. That's what he was trying to do in this, and it worked. It actually did feel like I was watching one of his old style 90s action films. It did feel like Bay was trying to go back to that old school type that he used to. And it really did work. It really did. Ambulance was such an emotional roller coaster. Almost to the point where my next segment is almost not worth mentioning, but it'll be said anyway. So let's dive into the mixed. The story was pretty interesting. It was an interesting concept. These two brothers who robs this bank goes sideways horribly. So they have to steal an ambulance along with a couple of hostages to make the movie more tense and to make a quick getaway. Sounds simple enough, right? No, not so much. You see, that's the thing about Michael Bay. He doesn't really know how to make a short movie. With that concept alone, this movie could have ran like around 90 minutes. But instead, he chooses to make every single one of his movies 2.5 hours, which this one clocks in at about 2 hours and 16 minutes with end credits. But still, it's always over 2 hours. And I felt like it was somewhat kind of overstaying its welcome. The concept alone was just short enough for a 90-minute movie. But since it ran over 2 hours, it sort of overstayed its welcome. However, it does not down it at all, like in the slightest, because all the action and the wittiness and the mayhem and all that really did make up for it. So that's why this is in the mixed. I'm not down in this movie at all, but it could have been a little shorter. If Michael Bay has not chose to direct this movie, it probably would have been a 90-minute movie with anybody else directing. Because in the end, folks, I really don't think Michael Bay knows how to make a short film. It's either over 2 hours or the highway for him. He's got a tendency to make these action movies that's so convoluted, but in a good way, and so plot-driven that it's just impossible. If he's behind the camera, you're not going to see a little teeny-weeny 90-minute movie. No, just with him, it's impossible. It's always going to be over 2 hours, close to 3 hours, although I haven't quite seen him get that far, but Transformers Age of Extinction definitely did get that close. He just doesn't know how to make a short movie. So if he's behind the helm, expect to sit there for a long-ass time. Which is fine. That's why I'm putting this in the mix. I didn't have a problem with the storyline, but I did feel it did kind of overstay his welcome. Just the hair. Still very exciting. And you have a lot of these shots, which he's known for doing this a lot in every single one of his movies. Again, I knew what I was getting into. I'm a fan of big, dumb, action-type films, which is all that Michael Bay does. But I did feel like he kind of overextended the drone shots just a little bit. There was certain shots where he just went all batshit crazy, where he would film the side of a building and then go over it and under it and loop it and then 360 it and 69 it. I did feel like that was a little bit overdone. Some shots, I felt like, well, you didn't really need to do that, dude. But yeah, hey, I'm enjoyed it. Yeah, you do your thing, man. You could have dialed it down a little bit. And plus, when you have certain characters just talking, he would have a tendency to move the camera all around and just everywhere. And it was like kind of disoriented. And I was like, just kind of chill a little bit with that. Yeah, you're awesome, man. Just chill a little bit with that. Just a little. But great film. All in all, guys, Ambulance was far from a disappointment. I did not have one single bad moment in this film. It was a fun, Bayatized movie. And it's everything I, of course, expected from this man. So if you're a fan of car chases, shoot-em-ups, and explosions, Bay style, you will definitely have a blast. It is worth being put on a pedestal. So, Ambulance, have you seen it yet? Are you a fan of this movie? Are you a fan of the whole Bayham style, the way Michael Bay always does his action sequences? Or are you somebody that is burnt out on it? Are you somebody that felt like this movie should have been a little shorter with the concept that it had? Leave me a comment down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, once again for watching this video. Like, subscribe, comment, and share the big 4. And I will see you on the next one. Peace.